Welcome to MRE Uncut, where we'll give you real and practical insights into the real estate scene in Melbourne. We'll discuss what's happening in the industry, all backed by MRE's history of over 30 years in the game. With that said, let's jump into this week's episode of MRE Uncut.
Welcome back to another MRE podcast. My name's Steve Fitzsimon, and today I've got the General Manager of MRE with me, Jake Workman.
Absolute pleasure to be here, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in. We wanted to have a look at you in your role at MRE a little bit because you come from a background which has zero real estate experience, and you came into MRE as a challenge for yourself and we saw that as an opportunity for fresh eyes. How has that experience been? What strengths has it brought to the table? Where do you feel you're sort of going at the moment?
Yeah, well, thanks. In terms of strengths that I bring to the table and how's it going, I'd be asking you and the rest of the leadership team, Steve. But
we're still here. Come on.
Yeah, that's right. Now, look, so the brief was that we were looking for someone from outside of real estate deliberately who could bring in a perspective really around professional services.
Yeah.
And so that was the brief that I had from the very get-go. And, you know, Pete's always run things a bit disruptively, right? And so he was looking for the next thing to disrupt the industry. And what we know is that residential real estate hasn't experienced the same level of professionalization in terms of standards, approaches, training, development, intake that we've seen in other sectors.
That's seriously cottage.
Yeah, big time cottage. Big time cottage. And I didn't appreciate that coming out. I've been here for 2.5 years now.
Yeah.
And I've been more exposed to it. I really do understand a bit more, but it's still something that exists.
Why do you reckon that is?
Because most of the real estate agencies, this is generalizing, but most of the real estate agencies that I've come across are going to be someone who wanted to have a crack at sales, and they did okay at it, and then they wanted to grow their business, and then they realized that if they have property management on the side as like the ugly cousin or the necessary evil, they'll get more sales listings out of it.
Right.
And so they've grown these small corner type shops without any sort of real thought into it. They kind of fell into that as a director now of their own estate agency. And we just haven't seen that level of professionalization that you'd expect in an industry that has so much value flowing through it.
Okay, so if we go back to then your approach or your entry point, if you go back, where do you bring the professionalization into MRE?
Yeah, so my journey, right, has been a fairly meandering one, and that's okay. I've always envied the people that know exactly what they want to do. Like you have that friend who from 5 years old is like, I'm going to be a vet. Yeah. And then they go on to be a vet. It's like, well, fuck off. Good for you, right? I've never had that. I'm curious about everything.
Yeah.
And I have a drive toward excellence. I know that, but I like to always be growing and developing and doing good works.
Yeah.
All right. So my career, I mean, realistically, I did all of the odd jobs all through high school, and you know, most people have.
Yeah.
I went to a business school at the University of Minnesota, which is where I grew up.
Yeah.
And
that explains the accent.
It certainly does. Oh yeah, mate. You know, I studied economics. That was probably Kiwi.
Yeah.
I studied economics.
Yeah.
Studied management, enjoyed it, but still hadn't found my tribe through that.
Okay.
Did a semester in Australia, my penultimate semester. I was there at the University of Melbourne.
Yeah.
And really threw myself into everything I could there. Threw myself into Australian rules football. Threw myself into cricket. Never seen a cricket bat in my life.
Yeah.
Got on stage at a student-run, production. Is where I met my wife. She's from Geelong. The rest is history. Here I am 20 years later.
Yeah.
First job, Flight Center. Flight Center Limited. I've graduated now from a business school. Need to have a gig here in Melbourne. I'm banging out flights on Swanson Street. Would you like fries with that? Bam,
right.
Banging them out, right? But
so sales.
Yeah, absolutely. Sales,
so it was
fully commission-based. Entry level, sales, commission-based.
So much for that degree to get you somewhere.
Mate, well, let's talk about that. Because what that degree got me was up into head office within a year.
Right. Okay.
Right. So again, learn as much as I can in the role, learn as much as I can about the industry, really wonderful stuff, but also was having the right sorts of conversations and demonstrating my aptitude and interests.
Yeah.
And so I got up into head office, responsible for 17 offices in the CBD initially.
Okay. Yep.
Looking at training and development, some product relationship stuff. Great. Then I got head of Vic Taz doing that.
Okay.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
I was there for maybe 5 years. Wonderful corporate culture and experience.
Okay.
And then I changed industries.
Okay. Why?
Well, the next move for Flight Center, because we were at their Queen Street office, they then went down to St. Kilda Road.
Yeah.
But their global is up in Brisbane.
Right.
And I'd been up to Brisbane several times, through work.
Yep.
And that was the natural next step in the progression.
Yep.
Life had other plans. So my
Okay.
wife and I weren't able to relocate at that time.
Right.
And so I said, well, let's look at the next thing.
Yep.
Now I'd been tutoring economics at the University of Melbourne of an evening still and on weekends.
Yep.
So I was still kind of involved in that world. And I thought, look, I'm ready to do my master's. I want to go to the Melbourne Business School and get that knocked off. I'm still involved in that world. My wife's an academic at the university anyway. So why don't I actually look at working at the universities?
Yep.
Getting into higher education instead. Also get a hefty discount on your fees if you're an employee of the Melbourne Business School,
Okay.
which is advantageous.
Yep.
So I changed industries, went into higher ed, did fairly well through that because of the industry background. They call it a pracademic, right? Something that has like a practical background, but is also in the teaching and learning space.
Okay.
So I brought that in. It was at the Melbourne Business School for a few years, then got tapped on the shoulder to become the residential dean at one of the residential colleges at the University of Melbourne. Again, a bit of a bit of a transition away in my meandering career path. Always open to opportunity, right? Curious about stuff. So then moved in as a residential dean with my wife and 2 young daughters. Did that for a few years. Got tapped on the shoulder to be the director of housing down at the University of Tasmania.
Yeah.
So it's real estate adjacent-ish. We're looking after all the university assets, both the university-owned and partnerships, student accommodation partnership stuff. And then out of the blue, I got called from a recruiter that Pete and I have a mutual connection to. That, hey, I got this opportunity in Melbourne. It's a really wonderful organization. I've met the founders, met the senior team, and we really think that what we're looking for is someone that has a real professional services lens that's gone through these sorts of organizations with the standards, the structures, the approach. And if you're ever thinking of coming back to Melbourne, why don't you give me a call?
So if you look at Flight Centre, is that sort of the go-to for you when you look at that? Because I see sitting on the outside, I'm looking at professional standards. That's a big business.
Yep.
They're going to have everything bedded down that most real estate agents don't.
Yep.
And then you've gone into your roles at the university, which is I find fascinating because that's sort of dealing with people who are the same age level as a lot of the staff that are in the junior positions in real estate. So that gives you a unique insight into their challenges, troubles, and lives. And then you come across and you're trying to put some of the learnings that you've had through your education and through the role at Flight Centre and bringing that level of professionalism into MREs. Have I got that?
Yep, nailed it. As well as the further studies, right?
Yeah,
and like learning and going into executive education or teaching executive education, doing those degrees, invaluable as well.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you got to take that whole mishmash of shit.
Yeah.
And you got to try to polish it up into something that's really effective and it's going to be
okay. All right. So
yeah.
you come in, you walk into MRE, you see the business as it operates. You took a bit of a different approach to most GMs because you came in and you started learning every role within the business.
Tried to, at least a bit.
Can you give your insight into what you discovered by doing that?
I discovered that I had a lot to learn, steep learning curve, really fascinating one. But the rationale behind
too much
Steve,
to learn?
No, not too much.
Not too much.
Never too much, right?
Right.
All right. So there are a few things about that. Number one.
So I'm looking at it. Sorry to cut you off, but I'm just looking at it. If I've got an agency and I need a new bit of fresh blood.
Yep.
And I get somebody from out of the industry.
Yep.
How long are they going to need before they really understand real estate as a whole, understanding that we're all still learning?
Yes.
But understanding it enough to.
Well, what do you think? Do you think I found my feet yet?
Yeah, I think you have I think my view on you is you've sort of found your feet, but you've gone beyond the learning the individual roles, and now you're trying to put them together better. It would be the view that I look at. The challenge is that when agencies go to conferences, for example, we learn off each other.
Yep.
So we're learning a million different ideas from a million different agencies. Some we've tried before and we just haven't told others that we've tried and stuffed up. Others we're doing and we sort of want to keep secret.
Yeah.
And then so there are sharers and then people who sort of fly under the radar or do it their own way and don't really want to, keep it within.
Yeah.
And so I'm I sort of look at it from the point of, okay, I think you know what a property manager does. I think you know what a BDM does and a salesperson does. But you're sort of putting a Jake Workman spin on the business from your experience. And the only thing that I sort of sit there and go, I think we all as a leadership team can still benefit more from learning from others' mistakes and learning from other successes.
Absolutely.
So I'm sort of sitting there and going, that's the aspect. So getting back to the question, if you look at it from when you felt that you were comfortable in understanding the basics of the individual roles, what sort of time frame did you put on that?
Oh, Steve, that's such a hard one. I mean, you understand the first 100 days, you observe, you have conversations, you look, you listen. I tried to learn as much as I could. I probably started to really find my feet around the 1 year mark, probably 9 months to a year.
Yep.
Right. Really understand all the interconnections of the parts.
Yeah.
Now, one of the first conversations you and I had, I quipped, if I'm the smartest guy in the room, I'm probably in the wrong room.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I still feel that way. So always be learning.
Yeah.
Always be having those conversations and seeing what can we take from this and take from that. Can we recombine those? And that guy's, oh, that's a great idea over there. But the other piece of that is I'm never going to be the expert in any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not going to eclipse your skill set.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And your knowledge.
Yeah.
I'm not going to eclipse Fava's.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Or Jared's or
any of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so part of it is just knowing when you need to step sideways and work shoulder to shoulder with people, or even put them in front of you and really learn from them, or let them shine and do the great work that they know how to do.
Yeah.
So long as that is not running over top of this person's great work, or it's affecting the ability of that person to get their things done as well.
Yeah.
Or how can we work together better?
Yeah.
And so it's really trying to take a holistic view of the entire business.
Yeah.
And all of these very complex parts, some of which we don't even have yet.
Yeah.
Because you say, well, what's the gap? What's missing? What's going to be the leverage? What's the catalyst over there? And trying to pull all of that together and to make us all more effective.
Yeah. So it's I think that last word's the interesting thing. You came up with a spin when you sort of understood who our client space are. Do you want to expand on what you love sharing?
I'm not sure. I love sharing a lot of stuff. Tell me more, Steve.
It's called the infinity loop.
Oh, don't tell me that. Yeah, okay. So everything that we do, so long as we provide spectacular service at every point of a customer journey, then they should never need another estate agency. Because I look at it, we are full service.
Yeah.
We are absolutely full service, and we do run the entire gamut.
Probably only caveat with that is if they move away from where we are.
Well, no, not even.
Oh, okay.
Not even, right? So here's the thing. We have case studies of this exact sequence happening. Most of the people we interact with are renters or prospective renters, almost 40,000 a year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Now, of them, a percentage are going to rent through us.
Yes.
So they become what I call our customers. They're paying rent. We want them to have a great experience, professional, respectful, safe, compliant home, well-maintained, etc. Okay. Now, most people who rent at some point want to own.
Yeah.
So then they become buyers. They're still our customers, right?
Yeah.
And we have a team equipped to make sure that they have a really positive buying experience.
Yeah. So
they become buyers, right? Just different part of this life cycle, but still with us. And at some point, life changes, and that buyer who's been living in their investment, maybe they bought it as an investment, but they've been living there, they need to now become a landlord.
Yeah.
And they need to now rent it out. And if they've had a great experience renting with us or a great experience buying with us, and we've had different people contributing along that entire journey.
Yeah. Different roles.
Why would they not want to rent with us?
Yeah.
This is the most valuable asset I own. And I know that MRE is going to be professional and respectful and responsive and all of these wonderful things, right? Yeah. And so, of course, they want to then have us manage that asset. Now, they're our client.
Track record.
Now they say, hey, I'm going to let you speak to Steve-O, and Steve and his team are going to sign you up, and you're going to become one of our very valued clients.
Yeah.
Life changes, right? I move in with my partner. They already own a property. I have to go overseas for 3 years for work. Divorces, deaths, diapers, downsizing, you name it. They need to sell.
Snappies, not diapers.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't start with a D. I like the alliteration. So they now need to sell.
Yeah.
And they've been with us through this entire journey so far.
Yeah.
They would choose to sell through us. We know the property. We know them. It's an established trusted relationship. And perhaps they've purchased a second property somewhere else. Perhaps they have to rent for a year. Perhaps it's not as clean as that.
Yeah.
But the reality is that if all of us do our part in providing spectacular service, that client will never need to leave us.
Leave the loop.
So I see us, this is pertinent because there was an eclipse just yesterday.
Was it?
We're like the sun, right? And once someone is in our orbit, right, they're in our gravity, they just want to bask in the warmth forever. And they have no reason to spin off elsewhere,
Yeah.
right? That's the way it should be.
Yeah. Okay. You've lost me on the
Oh,
the
whatever.
sun thing, but we'll move on. So you've come into MRE. How do you think you've influenced the culture?
Positively
Okay.
is what I would hope for, at least.
Yeah.
How do I influence the culture? I would hope that the level of energy and enthusiasm and passion I bring,
Yeah.
perhaps,
I can feel a bit of that.
perhaps some might say it's intensity.
Yeah.
Hopefully that permeates throughout the organization and people know that genuinely we're here to support you to do great work.
Yeah.
Looking at each of the elements of the business, both individually and as a collective, as this gestalt greater than the sum of its parts,
Yeah.
I think helps us actually work together and it breaks down the silos.
Yeah.
So I think there is a lot more communication and there's a lot more free-flowing collaboration and innovation between the team as well.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
I would hope that as we continue to drive this professionalization and the professional services, that we do see a level of enthusiasm with our people and our staff
Yeah.
who want to see that growth and that learning and that, right?
Yeah.
Pretty important part.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I think that ultimately it's going to attract a really high caliber of staff and we're going to retain a high caliber of staff. And I think that more and more people will want to be within our orbit.
So I like where that's going. It's not happening across the industry. Where are the challenges that you're seeing industry wise? Like for
Yeah.
me, I look at it and I sit there and I go, at the moment, I feel as an agent, I was having an interesting conversation on the way here with Jared, our head of leasing.
Great guy.
livability. He's great. And we were chatting about how I don't know why there's a thought that every landlord is super wealthy and from tenants. And he was like, mate, you're a bit out of it. And like, it, it's hard to hear, but he's the next generation down. And he's sitting there and he's going, now, I reckon everybody who's under 30 at the moment thinks that every landlord is wealthy
Yeah.
and they're being taken advantage of and they're being, and he said, like, you don't recognize the level of angst that there is between that generation and landlords and the property manager, the middle person.
Correct.
So that's something that I'm sort of like thinking about now.
Yep.
Do you think that there's some aspect of our industry that is accentuating that problem, or
No.
where's
No.
the driver?
No,
here?
what I find is that almost everyone, certainly within our organization, but I imagine that this is almost universal across the industry, they just want to have happy renters, happy landlords,
Yeah.
right? They're high empathy problem solvers that just want people to have good experiences on both ends of that spectrum.
Yeah.
Right? So no, I don't think it's our industry that's creating that. I think that the cost of living pressures are real.
Yeah.
I think that there is a misperception out there because the vast majority of our landlords, our owners, own a single investment property.
Yeah.
That is it. So it's not as though they're cashed up and they have this huge investment portfolio.
Probably
and they're
negatively geared.
Probably
not making enough money.
Probably is. And then when you look at the cost of OC fees and land tax and all the rest, right? Probably is negatively geared. And that probably wasn't their investment strategy going into it.
Yeah.
Because they thought they were going to have a fairly strong investment and they're not seeing the capital growth either. Right? So the challenge is we have landlords actually doing it really tough, many of them. Renters doing it really tough, many of them. We have property managers in the middle that want to make sure that both sides of that are having the best possible experience.
Yeah.
And so really it's an education piece and more empathy and understanding from both sides.
Yeah, so this is where it comes down to just sort of the way the world's going. The expectations get higher and higher and higher. Delivering on them takes more to be able
Correct.
to deliver on those expectations. Everybody feels cost burdens. So that's renters not wanting to pay more and owners not want to pay fees more. And then they've got burdens as well that are non-negotiable.
All the holding
like
costs,
interest rates.
absolutely.
So this is understanding from a renter's side and understanding from a landlord's side.
Yes.
And just being a little bit more considerate to drive a more, how would I say it? A more a different approach to property managers, the different starting point. So taking away the nastiness and just engaging with them on a human to human basis.
Absolutely. Professionalism, respect, empathy. Those are key words that we're driving every single day throughout the organization. And we just need to make sure that the people that we're working with are feeling that they're understanding that, then they're returning that. And as they do, I think it's going to be really positive for the industry, because we're all just trying to provide, again, safe, compliant, high value, great homes in great suburbs with great service.
And transparency.
Absolutely.
And honesty.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Jake, thanks for coming in today. It's been very interesting to hear your background and what you brought to MRE. Thanks for joining us.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.